Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon. Let's get to it.
Good morning. Welcome to Undisputed. I'm Jenny Taft with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. How are you guys doing today?
Jenny, I am doing great. Had a great night's sleep last night. Ready to do a number on you-know-who.
Shannon, I think today you better get in touch with your man LeBron James and tell him to quit talking about Michael Jordan. He is looking worse and worse, and I can't wait to talk more and more about that.
LeBron is just fine. Don't you worry about GOAT James. Still the GOAT.
Yeah.
You get him on the phone. You do your talking, Shannon. We will go all into Michael Jordan and LeBron. But to start today's show, we do have some important NFL news to get to because later today, the NFL will discuss a change to the Rooney Rule. The proposal is that a team who hires a minority coach or general manager will get a boost in the draft the following season. Tony Dungy came out and said that he didn't agree with it personally, but that it could spur some communication and conversation. So, Shannon, do you like the idea?
No, I don't. And Skip, and I honestly, sincerely, deep down believe that Commissioner Goodell has had conversation with the 32 owners and said, guys, this is not a good look. But, Skip, what if the 32 owners did it like they do, they're putting their team together? Hire the best guy. You know what I'm saying? Just think about that, Skip. Just think, oh, we want the best quarterback. We're gonna draft him. Or we want the best this. We're gonna do that. Or we're gonna, trade or in free agency. We're just going to sign the best guy. But Skip, without a lack of diversity in ownership, the front office, people that's doing the hiring practices, Skip, I don't know what's going to change because it takes a special someone to hire someone that does not look like them, that doesn't sound like them, or they're not familiar, run in the circles in which the NFL and the people that are hiring, Skip, that are in. Skip, if you look at Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy's first really job as an offensive coordinator, he got the job as San Francisco's offensive coordinator under Mike Nolan. When he became a head coach in Dallas, Skip, who was the first hire? Who was his first hire? Mike Nolan. Now Mike Nolan is back in position to get a head coaching job because he's now going to be front and center as a defensive coordinator. See, Skip, if you're not on the end, it's hard to get in. And, Skip, look, and I get it. Skip, it's hard. Skip, it is hard to tell a man that spends $1 billion, $2 billion on something and then tell him how to run it. Skip, it's just like you got your dream car. The ZR1 got 785 horsepower. It's a nice grade. But, Skip, when you got that car home, if you wanted to paint it pink, you could have. It's your car. Because, I bought it. So they look at that commissioner like, you do realize we spent $1 billion to be able to do with this as we say. But, Skip, it's not a good look when you have, 65, 70% African-Americans playing the game and you have so few coaching the game. And it's just not a good look. But it's hard, Skip, when someone is not in the position of hiring or someone's not in a position of ownership, and, you're going to, hey, such and such, because they get opportunities. I mean, can you imagine, Skip, have you ever heard of an African-American getting a head coaching job as a special teams coach? No. Matt Nagy got a head coaching job. He didn't even call the plays. All Eric Bieniemy can do, he called plays and can get an interview. One, Cleveland. Maybe the Giants, But, Skip, the question that I have is, Skip, is that when you bring a minority in, are you bringing him in because of the Rooney Rule, or are you bringing him in to sincerely give him a fair opportunity to sit down, hear his idea, and how he would run your organization? Are you really doing that? And, Skip, there's definitively no way to know. So I'm not going to beat up Roger Goodell because I do believe Roger is trying because he see that there's a lack of diversity. And the NFL, Skip, for the most part, they get failing marks when it comes to diversity. They don't get these marks like the NBA. But, Skip, it's the good old, a lot of these men, Skips, are in their, 60s, 70s, and 80s. They have an idea. They have a way of thinking. And I don't really know how you get them out of that, Skip. I wish I had a better explanation to how the NFL could fix the hiring practices with minorities. But unfortunately, Skip, I don't, because it's just hard to tell a man to spend $1 billion or $2 billion what he should do and who he should hire for his ball club.
So, Shannon Sharpe, I always greatly appreciate your wisdom and insight on these matters. And I hear every point you just made. They're not good points, they're great points. And I did appreciate what Coach Dungy said yesterday about, I've just never been in favor of rewarding people for doing the right thing.
The right thing.
And that's what this boils down to. So we can increase our third-round pick 10 spots if we hire a minority GM, and 6 more spots in the third round if we hire a minority coach. Why? Why wouldn't you in the first place? Why do you need incentive to do that? So I get it all. But now I'm going to tell you why I'm barely okay with this new incentivized program, which will go before the owners today. I believe it's at 1 o'clock Eastern time. I have no idea if it's going to pass or not. But the reason I'm barely okay with it is because I communicated last night with, as you know, my longtime friend, John Wooten, who has for many years been the driving force behind the Rooney Rule. And John surprised me because he was barely okay with this new incentivized program. And Shannon, the reason I think John's barely okay with it is he's beaten his head against this wall for so many years, sometimes with some success and many times with no success, that I think he's just saying, well, it's better than nothing, right? And I think John has realized over many years that, let's just say that this new program, as bogus as it is, as wrong-headed as it is, if it somehow affords an opportunity to one young African-American head coach, let's say, and he gets his foot in one door and he takes one team deep into the playoffs or, who knows, to the Super Bowl. As you know, Shannon, it's long been a sheep-think league. Oh, they're doing it at work. Maybe I should try it. And when that happens, when we have a Coach Dungy in the Super Bowl, when we have him winning a Super Bowl, it can open a door, at least for a little while, for another run on young African-American coaches. So to me, if this gives us one new opportunity somewhere where it works for somebody, then maybe it's worth it, because it didn't work the last time around, as you know, Shannon. And last night I sat back, and I don't want to get too deep here, but it dawned on me that Dr. King died for this cause 52 years ago, and here we still are. So we're still having this conversation, and we're saying, how can we fix this? It's 2020. How can we fix it? Well, to your point, Shannon, you can't change the way a man thinks, the way a billionaire thinks. He did buy the team. He owns and operates. It's his call. It's hard to make him. So the league tried the first time around, they tried punitive. They tried to penalize you if you didn't give Rooney Rule interviews. And now they're saying, okay, that didn't really work. So how about if we incentivize? How about if we reward you? Oh, so we'll go for positive reinforcement instead of negative. Maybe that will work. I have no idea if it will work at all, but if you told me that it opened one door for one minority candidate who became successful, I'd say, okay, better than nothing.
You, Skip, you're right. My grandpa used to tell my brother and I, Skip, is that when he gave us chores to do and we'd have, do it, he would look at me and my brother and say, son, anything is better than nothing. But you two fellas are real close to nothing. Skip, this is real close to nothing. And as you said earlier, you're rewarding someone for doing the right thing. I need to reward you. Skip, just imagine This is not an Allstate commercial where if you don't have an accident for 5 years, Skip, we'll give you $500. You don't get a speeding ticket. You don't get a moving violation. You don't have an accident. We'll reward you. Damn, Skip, shouldn't you do that regardless? Why must I reward you moving up in the third round for you to do the right thing? Skip, nobody believed that Jerry Jones was going to hire Marvin Lewis. Skip, now I'm very familiar with a lot of the African-American coaches that have gotten jobs. You know, I know Anthony Lynn, he was a teammate of mine. Marvin Lewis, I played with, I was on the team. I don't really know Lovey. I know Hugh Jackson. Steve Wilkes was Skip. He was the defensive coordinator. I think he might have been the head coach at Savannah. So I'm very familiar with a lot of these guys, Skip. But the thing is that they have to make good because the likelihood of them getting another opportunity isn't very good. So it's almost like there's always going to be pressure on being a head coach, Skip, because you only have 16 games and the turnover cycle is just so great. And it's easy for owners to move on. They're like, nah, it's not. Because Skip, look, I get it. Cliff Kingsbury comes in. But do we really believe Steve Wilkes got a fair opportunity in Arizona? No, we don't believe that.
No.
And it's just frustrating to me when I see how they think when it comes to players. They're going to get the best players. Skip, they're not looking at it if he's black. They're not looking. Now, that used to be the way they were thinking with quarterbacks. And then, Skip, it took Doug Williams winning the Super Bowl. And it's like, well, hold on, wait a minute. They won the Super Bowl. So, hey, let's call it Warren Moon. And then you see a run and you see guys starting to have success. The last two MVPs, Skip, have been African-Americans. And so maybe you're right. Maybe that's what's it's going to take because, Mike Tomlin had success with Tony Dungy, won the Super Bowl. And then the counterpart was Lovey. But, Skip, we see Lovey go 8-8 in Tampa. He loses his job. And then somebody else comes in and goes 79, and they just keep the job. We look at Jim Caldwell in Detroit, Skip. He goes to the playoffs, twice? Goes 9-7? Matt Patricia hadn't even been close. First of all, it's harder for us to get a job, Skip, and then it's easier for them to relieve us of the duties if we don't do well in the first year or two. So, like I said, Skip, I just can't beat Roger Goodell up because knowing Commissioner Goodell the way I do believe he's had this conversation. But, Skip, like you said, when you 65, 70, 80 years old, Skip, you got a way of thinking. I don't care what anybody tells you. They can say, the world is changing around you. It is. But that doesn't mean it's changing within you. It might be changing around you, but is it changing in you?
Right. So, Shannon, I believe Commissioner Goodell was horrified by this last coaching cycle of hiring. And what do we say, as you said, what's the league? 70% black? I'm not sure. Sometimes I hear as high as 75% black players. And now we're down to 3 black coaches. Then Ron Rivera would make it 4 minority coaches. And he was obviously recycled. Correct. So we got 3 black head coaches, and we have only 2 black general managers. Well, that's horrifying. That's going in the wrong direction. That's a terrible look for the National Football League. And yet we routinely, year after year, we come back to the same question. Well, how do you fix it? Again, when I communicated with John Wooten last night, he's still gung-ho on the interview process. And by the way, they're trying to fix that under the Rooney Rule now with this proposal because they're saying you have to interview at least 2 minority candidates instead of just 1. So John is pushing for 3. He says every time an owner interviews at least 3 minority candidates, the metrics tell you, those second-level stats tell you something good is going to happen. It dramatically increases the probability that one of those 3 candidates is going to at least get on the map and get hired or maybe get that coaching vacancy that he's being interviewed for at the time. So I'm all for that, Shannon, because you brought up Joe Judge. Okay, he was the special teams / receivers coach. Not sure how that worked, but he comes highly regarded. Everybody loves him who's worked with him. I get all that, but he's still, to me, He got the head coaching job of the New York Football Giants, a cornerstone NFL franchise, as the special teams coach under Bill Belichick. Man, that's a little hard to sell. Harder to sell was Matt Rule. Matt Rule? That's the one I fell off my chair on that one, because Matt Rule was the longtime coach at Temple, turned it into a little bit of a smaller power, if you will. And then he goes to Baylor, and he got huge credit for turning around a program that has been an NFL pipeline for years. They got rocked by a scandal under Art Briles, and then slowly but surely they turned it back around because they get players. They can recruit to Baylor. It has tradition. It has RG3 legacy there. It has Mike Singletary legacy. And yet, Shannon, you know, when I'm watching Art Rule's team last year against my Oklahoma Sooners, they're at home in the key game of the year. They're up 31-10 at halftime, and they lose the second half 21-0, and they lost the game. And then they lost to Oklahoma a second time in overtime in the Big 12 championship game. And off that, he gets 6 years, $70 million. Is that right? It's actually 7 years. 7 years, $60 million. That's what it is. But it's an outrageous, huge deal for a completely unproven coach who for 1 year was the assistant offensive line coach at the Giants. Well, come on. What are you doing? How did that happen? Please explain that one, because I can't. Maybe it'll work out. Maybe it won't. But there are too many vacancies that came up, including the retread, who was Mike McCarthy, going to my Cowboys. And to your point, I actually thought Marvin Lewis would have been a good idea with a defensive mindset to bring in to a team that had been so defensively challenged over the last 5 years. And yet, that was a token interview. There was no way. Jerry wanted to hire the guy with the Super Bowl win, Mike McCarthy. I'm fine with that. I would have been just as fine with Marvin Lewis. But I'd be much finer if somebody had gotten a job somewhere and nobody did. So, again, we're back to, is this better than nothing? Is it an insult? And again, Shannon, Tony Dungy made the point, if you do get hired as an incentive coach where somebody moved up 6 spots because they hired you, well, then how are you viewed by the white coaches on the staff? What do they say? You got this job for draft choices, you know, like because we moved up in the draft? Is that why you got your job?
We don't normally look, in sports, we don't really look at things like an affirmative action. It's like, you know, colleges that receive federal money, you need to have X amount of, you know, applicants and entrants of a minority. Well, we don't look at sports like that. And it shouldn't be like that, Skip. If I'm the best man for the job, just bring me in and give me a realistic opportunity. Listen to what I have to say. That's all I'm saying. Listen to what I have to say. Don't bring me in because the Rooney Rule says, well, I got to bring a minority in, so I just got to bring one. If I just bring one in, I've done my obligation. So now I can get down to business and bring in guys that I'm really, really interested in. Don't do it. Don't treat it like that, because that's not what you do. Skip, when they draft these players, they sincerely believe they're drafting the best player at that position. And they want that guy on their team. Skip, the reason why, and what we see with John Harbaugh was a special teams coach. And Skip, we've seen the level of success that he's had with the Ravens. His teams play hard every single game. They love playing for him. And you know what you're going to get when you play the Baltimore Ravens. So maybe that's what the Giants was thinking. Because we saw a run, Skip, when the Steelers hired Mike Tomlin, we started seeing young guys getting head coaching job. Not necessarily black ones, but younger guys getting head coaching jobs because they saw the level of success that he had with the Steelers. But Skip, Mike Tomlin came, he was under Tony Dungy. If I'm not mistaken, Skip, he was the DB coach in Tampa. He parlayed that into the DC at Minnesota. Minnesota was very good defensively. But if you're black and you're a special teams coach, man, you ain't get no head coaching job, man. You're going to stop playing. You got to be the offensive coordinator, Skip, and calling plays. You need to literally call the plays, because if you just hold the clipboard, it's like, well, he's the OC, but that's just entitled alone. Nah. You're not getting no job. Matt Nagy got a job, parlay that into Chicago. And Skip, if you're a black head coach and you get a second opportunity, the likelihood of you going from like Mike McCarthy, going from Green Bay to Dallas, you might go from the Raiders to Cleveland, or you might go this job and go to Cincinnati. But I just don't, Skip. Yeah. I just honestly, Skip, if you say, well, Shannon, I want you to write down 3 things that you think would help. Skip, the first thing I'm going to say, you need to get people that's diverse. You're going to have to get minorities and put them in position where they can do the hiring. That's first and foremost. Outside of that, Skip, but then the owner, he has to hire somebody that's diverse. He's going to have to hire somebody that doesn't look like him. You talk about a head coach, well, he's going to have to put somebody in position because ultimately, Skip, the head coach is going to have to sign, the owner's going to have to sign up on it. Yeah, you might have a general manager, but that's not something the general manager says, okay, you turned everything over to me. No. I got this from here. Nah, you got to run that back up the flagpole, bro.
Yep. So last quick point about Mike Tomlin. I've told you many times, I'm a big fan of Mike Tomlin. If I could pick a current coach that I could play for, I'd want to play for Mike. I know he's had a few ups and a few downs, but he's had way more ups than downs. And to get to the 2 Super Bowls and to win a Super Bowl is pretty special. And to your point, he was a no-name assistant. He had been on Tony's staff, then he was up as a DC in Minnesota. I didn't know anything about him. And to the Rooney's credit, speaking of Rooney Rule, they took a flyer. They liked what they heard. They liked what they heard about him. And they took a flyer on Mike Tomlin. And I would say they would tell you today that was one of the greatest choices they've ever made in the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So it can happen, but you have to plunge. You have to take your shot.
Because think about what happened, Skip. You remember in the late 70s, one Tony Dungy played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So when they bring him in, Tony Dungy can offer a great point of reference dealing with Mike Tomlin. Skip, tell you a story about Mike Tomlin. He went to William and Mary. What Nike does, all their athletes, sometimes they have them go to a football camp down at William and Mary. One of the receivers one year that my brother went was one Mike Tomlin. My brother gave him a T-shirt, talked to him, and every time he sees me, he always asks me about my brother and say, man, tell him, Mike, everybody calls him Mike T, say, I really appreciate the information that he gave me when I was in school at William and Mary. So, but he's a great Skip. He's a great guy. Well, you're right, Skip. If you're ever around Mike Tomlin, you can't help but love him. He's a guy that you want to run through a wall for.
What a good story, Shannon, about Coach Tomlin and your brother. That's really interesting. Good points from you guys, and we'll have to see what else comes out from those virtual owner meetings. No mercy. Well, guys, LeBron James discussed how his game would mesh with Michael Jordan's yesterday during a reaction show to The Last Dance. LeBron said his ability to pass with Jordan's assassin mentality would have worked perfectly together, and he would have been like Scottie Pippen, but on a higher level. I love just picturing this possibility. Shannon, how would LeBron have worked as MJ's teammate?
Well, Skip, if you get LeBron early, before he becomes what he's becoming, I think LeBron is on to something. It's hard for me to see a scenario where LeBron is, say like 3 years, 4 years into the league, he's established himself and then becomes second fiddle. But Skip, LeBron's game is all about passing, moving the basketball. Yeah, he can get his own shot. We know what he represents, but he can pass the ball. He's a better passer. True point guard. Both have got about 6'9", play the 3, the small forward. But I would have loved to have seen this. Now I don't know how realistic it is. I don't know if LeBron is going to take Jordan's type of leadership, the tough, hands-on, tough love, whatever you want to call it, bullying, tough love, pulling, dragging, going. But I think LeBron is very, very self-motivated. So I don't think Michael would have had, because Michael didn't do that to Scottie. So I believe he would have known what Bron represents and would have not had to do that with LeBron James. But to say, wow. I mean, to hear LeBron say that, Skip, I mean, obviously you're like, yeah, it would have been great to play with Magic or play with Bird, but I don't know if I've ever heard of a historically great player saying they would have loved to have played with another great player, especially, you're talking about, we definitely wouldn't be having these debates right now, Skip, if LeBron James played with Michael Jordan. We're not going to have a debate. we can't have a debate with GOATs if you play on the same team. So, I think that's what kind of hurt Magic and what hurt Kareem a little bit, Skip, is that they played on the same team. And it's kind of hard when you got two guys like that for like, okay, which one is better? But I would have loved to have seen it. But then I wouldn't get an opportunity to see GOAT in its purest form. I mean, I would not have got an opportunity to see the big GOAT. You know, like Edie was talking about the one with the horn, the big horn, like old GOAT James be having on the side of his head. I wouldn't have got an opportunity to see that, Skip, because Mike would have been hogging up all the shots. And I would have been seeing them game winners that old GOAT James been hitting in the playoffs over the last 17 years. So, Skip, I do think it would have worked, though. I really do, because I think LeBron would have set whatever notions about him wanting to be, let's say, a historically great player. I believe he would have set that aside because he would have wanted to win championships, and that's what it would have taken, because you can't have two assassins on the same team. One of the guys needs to be an assassin, and the other guy needs to take a different type of role. Scottie was able to do that. I believe LeBron would have been able to do that. I know it drives you crazy, but LeBron James, they might have had about 14 titles. 14. LeBron gets there in 87 like Scottie Pippen, so 88, 89, they didn't run out about 10 or 11 straight. Celtics would have been no more. We didn't even talk about the late 50s and 60s Celtics. It'd have been the Bulls with GOAT James and Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
Before I address your last point, which is the best point for me to attack, allow me to address LeBron's contention that he would have been perfect for Michael Jordan. For once, I completely and utterly agree with LeBron and with Shannon Sharpe. He would have been the perfect complement to Michael Jordan. I couldn't have made it up better. You've got LeBron, whose nature is to pass first, and you've got what LeBron said was the all-time assassin, a man who attacked you to score the basketball, to rip effectively your basketball throat out. And to me, you're right. In fact, Rick Bucher's piece that we talked about yesterday, Bleacher Report, was about how would Michael do today. And there was an anonymous quote from an NBA executive saying, yeah, LeBron playing with Michael would have been Scottie on steroids. Yep, he would have been 6'9", 260. With that passing gift, you would have been everything Scottie and then some. You would have taken it up a whole nother level from Scottie. But I've told you from the start, the reason it would have worked is because LeBron is more of a lover than a fighter. He's more of non-confrontational. He's more of a facilitator, and he would have gone with MJ's flow, especially if you get him as a younger player. Yes, he would have begun deferring to Jordan, and he would have allowed Jordan to become the alpha on the team. And I think LeBron James with Michael could have been the all-time greatest Robin you could ever imagine. But he would be the B-side to the alpha. And in the end, when you look at LeBron, he would keep doing what he does best, which is make not good passes. He's still the best passer in basketball. And then it would be more on Michael's shoulders to hit last shots, to make game-changing plays on offense and defense, as he regularly did. And that would be a lethal combination. And LeBron went so far as to say that he likes being challenged by a big brother like Dwayne Wade the first time around in Miami, 2011. He said, I loved it when D. Wade came to me and said, hey, 6, because he's obviously wearing number 6. 6, you got to get going. And he loved that Ty Lue, his second time around in Cleveland, would say, Bron, when are you going to get going? You know, it's time, right? And he said he took that and enjoyed the challenge of it. And I can tell you what would have happened if those two had been together. Trust me, Michael would have toughened up LeBron. Michael would have made LeBron a much better late game, close game free throw shooter, because I promise you, Shannon, every day after practice, Michael would have challenged LeBron to a free throw shooting contest in front of the team and the coaches. and it would be for money only those two guys could have afforded, LeBron and Michael. Yeah. And once you get put to the fire, you get fire tested by that guy, and if you beat him occasionally, you'd start feeling better and better about your chances standing alone at the late game free throw line with the game tied, one down, about making those free throws. So I think Michael could have been great for LeBron. Now, to your point, I was shocked that LeBron talked about this. Why would he even bring it up? It's almost like he's conceding the GOAT debate to Michael, because Michael would never talk about playing with LeBron. Did you hear that come up in the document? No, you're not going to hear that. He would never acknowledge LeBron, except in that 2015 ESPN The Magazine article in which he talked about he'd studied LeBron on TV, because in Michael's head it was, how can I defend him? I've got to make him go left, because when he goes left, he pulls up and shoots jump shots. I can't let him go right because he's too big for me. 6'9", 260, I'm 6'6", maybe 215. So I can't let him drive hard right and drive by me. And Michael talked openly about that, about how to stop LeBron, not about joining forces with LeBron. Because, Shannon, Michael Jordan, the last thing he wanted to do is join forces with Magic or Bird or Kareem or whoever it was. He didn't think like that. Everything he had was homegrown. Scottie was drafted, obviously, and Tony Kukoc was drafted. They did go get Dennis Rodman, but the point was that everything was there for him. It got acquired to Chicago. He didn't have to go chasing championships. So I was shocked that LeBron would talk about being his Robin. Why would you even acknowledge that publicly unless in your head that's your way of conceding the GOAT debate? That's my takeaway from it. LeBron saying, I give up.
You know what, Skip? I think the thing is that we want there to be a rivalry between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. And I think we want LeBron to, because if you really think about it, Skip, Michael has really never talked in glowing terms about LeBron as he has Kobe. And I think the fact of the matter is that people he's never said anything good about you, LeBron. Why do you rush to always praise and heat? But Skip, that was his idol. That was the guy he looked up to. Skip, that's why he wears 23. We know that. That's why he wears it. That's who, Skip, everybody wanted to be Mike. Everybody wanted to fly through the air. Everybody wanted those shoes because they thought it could make them be Mike. People started drinking Gatorade, and they never drunk Gatorade, Skip, because Michael Jordan drank Gatorade. Skip, you remember, and I know you remember this, Gatorade used to come in glass containers. I dropped a many of them in the store, and when it hit the pavement, the concrete, it was over. There was a lot of cleanup in the back right here because I just dropped a jug of Gatorade. But everybody wanted to be Mike. And what he did, Skip, everybody's house, as far as I'm just talking basketball players, everybody's house that's being built, Michael Jordan laid the foundation. So all these shoe deals that you see, Skip, and all these other stuff that you see, that's Michael Jordan's foundation. And so LeBron has really never had a problem heaping praise on the old guard, be it Magic, be it Bird, be it Kareem, and most importantly, Michael Jordan, because he views Michael. And if you heard him talk, he said it was Skip, and I told you this, Skip, I told you, and I keep saying this. If you go back, and I'm not talking about Magic and Larry because they were already somebody, but if you go back and let's start with Shaq and come back down, everybody says the exact same thing. When you meet Michael Jordan, it's like meeting a god. It's like he's levitating. And I was talking to Steve. I said, Steve, I'm telling you, it's like he's not real. I'm talking about when I met him for the very first time in that elevator in Atlanta, Skip, he's not. I'm like, this is Michael Jordan. I mean, and I know, Skip, look, my grandmother, I grew up in the church, Skip, and you're not supposed to have reverence to no man. But Skip, this man is like God. It's like he was levitating. I'm looking at him and talking to him. And I know you think this dude weird. This dude looking at me like I'm crazy. But Skip, it was like he was levitating. And you listen to Shaq and look at Kobe and all these other guys, D. Wade, how they talk about him. Skip, he doesn't seem real. And LeBron was saying, well, like, I didn't think he was real. I just thought he was real in TV. I didn't think, you cut the TV off and then he goes away. And then you see him and he's standing right there in front of you, Skip. I've met a lot of famous people in my life. I've met a lot of important people that got billions, 50, 100 billions. Nothing. No, man, I've never, ever seen anybody have that kind of impact on other, Skip, and I'm not the only one that have that kind of impact on someone. Skip, it's like Michael, it's like he's not real. And it's still to this day, he's like that. I'm like, man, this man, Skip, he levitates. I'm telling you, Skip, you've been around him. You know the aura that's around him. You know it.
Okay, but Shannon,
yes,
this has to hurt you because it hurts your GOAT argument when LeBron is openly acknowledging, I could have been his Robin. I could have been his Pippen. I'm shocked that LeBron would go that far to say, yeah, I concede. I would have been a great compliment to Michael Jeffrey Jordan. I just didn't think I'd ever hear that from LeBron. And again, you can interpret it how you want, but I interpret it as I concede the GOAT debate.
Skip, look at it. Okay. We can go back. Let's do the Batman movies. And the first one came out, if I'm not mistaken, 1989. Jack Nicholson played the Joker. And we've had several since, and they've all been Nicholson. He played the original Joker. Now we come back and we go to Heath Ledger, and then we go to Joaquin Phoenix. So I'm just trying to figure, Skip, which one is the best? Which one is the best? Because for me, there is no wrong. I mean, a lot of people like Heath Ledger because he went to a cold, dark place. I'm a little biased towards the original, Jack Nicholson. But Phoenix just won the Oscar. He was unbelievable, too. So, Skip, that's the way you look. That's the way I'm looking at it. And I give great deference to Magic and Bird and all these other great Hall of Famers that said Mike is the GOAT. But, Skip, it's my argument like this, Skip. You might like fried chicken. I might like ribs. That's your dish. You not moving me off my argument. Just because you like it, that don't mean I like my dish. I like GOAT James, and I'm riding with GOAT James because guess what? We're not done painting this masterpiece. We're going to paint this masterpiece, Skip.
We can debate you're doing a lot of apples and oranges and pears because we can debate who the best Batman was or who the best Joker was. But we're talking. We can debate who the best basketball player. What we're talking about now. No, we're talking about LeBron openly acknowledging, I could have been Robin. Okay, you could have been the best Robin. We all agree. Yes, LeBron James, you would have been the greatest Robin ever, and it wouldn't have been close. But you're admitting you're even thinking about being Robin. Game over.
Skip.
You're not Batman. You're acknowledging that you're considering how would it have been to be Robin. Wow.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. Was Magic Johnson ever Robin? If I'm not mistaken, when Magic Johnson got to the league, he was Robin. No. Magic Johnson was Robin.
He wasn't.
Skip.
He was not.
Skip, you do realize Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson's rookie year, Kareem was the MVP. So how in the hell you become Batman and Robin was the MVP? Have you ever seen a scenario where that happens?
Okay, but Shannon, look at the 4 previous years for the Lakers when it was just Kareem without Magic and see what happened.
Yes.
Nothing happened. They were abysmal.
No, did it?
All of a sudden, Magic became the alpha. He became the leader of the team. And remember Game 6 at Philadelphia when Kareem couldn't go?
Yes.
What that rookie Magic did, he played center. Yeah. It shows you they didn't even need him.
They didn't need him. But, Skip, you mentioned they were abysmal, but in the previous 4 years before Magic got there, Kareem was MVP 3 times. So it's hard for me to see a scenario in which an MVP, a 3-time MVP.
Look at the records.
Yeah, Skip, Skip, all I can do is just give you that. That's all I can give you. So I'm just saying, Skip, he's not Robin, but he said if I'd have needed to play that role, I could have played that role and I would have embraced it. And that's what you have to do to be great. You have to be willing to embrace a role. I'm the greatest Robin. First of all, I'm the greatest Robin ever.
An agreement on this one. We are not.
No mercy.
But the end of The Last Dance, Michael Jordan said he believed Scottie Pippen would have come back for one more season had management decided to bring back Phil Jackson and the rest of the team. Bulls owner Jerry Reinsdorf refuted this, saying, quote, "There's not a chance in the world that Scottie Pippen would have come back on a one-year contract." So, Shannon, how unrealistic was it to try to bring back that 98 Bulls team?
Very, very unrealistic. And I shared this with Skip yesterday, because you have to look at it, Skip, like this. Scottie Pippen had an injury history. Now, in his first 11 years, Scottie Pippen had made $22 million. So you meaning to tell me he was going to be willing to forego the 5-year, $60 million offer that they had on the table at Houston to take a 1-year what? With that back. Remember, Skip? The back. Remember, he had the knee. Was his ankle? Was his ankle or knee that he had waited to have surgery on? He had the history of migraines. He was going to be unwilling to roll the dice because at that point, Skip, he had 6 rings. Another ring wasn't going to secure his future financially. $67 million worth. You look at Luke Longley. Luke Longley got 5 years, $30 million from the Phoenix Suns. He had 3 rings. Another ring wasn't going to secure him financially. That money was. Steve Kerr got 5 years, $11 million. Skip, you have to understand, they do not have what Mike had behind him, which was that Nike machine. Mike Jordan I just read yesterday is worth $2.1 billion. Scottie Pippen, Luke Longley, and Steve Kerr together is not even a tenth of that. So with that being said, Skip, they couldn't risk 1-year deals. Skip, that's why nobody wants to play on the franchise tag. Skip, that's 1 year. With the injury risk so high, they want long-term financial security, and especially in basketball, because that money is fully guaranteed. So there's no way Scottie, who had made $22 million in his first 11 years, was going to take a 1-year deal. Skip, I do not believe at that point in time Mike was going to be willing to play for less than what he thought his market value was, and that was going to be somewhere around $40 million. Because, Skip, if you remember, all those other years, Skip, he was the 15th highest paid, the 8th, 20th highest paid, and he didn't say a word. But, boy, 97 and 98, he said, y'all need to give me back pay. All that money that I left on the table and let you sign all these other guys, and there were guys on my team making as much as I was, I need that back right now. So, Skip, it was very unrealistic. And remember, Skip, Dennis Rodman, over the next 2 years, played 35 games. They were not bringing Dennis Rodman back, especially, Skip. He had gotten to the point they'd have practice, and he out there wrestling Hulk Hogan. Oh, he taking 2 days off to go to Vegas, and they got to come get him out of his apartment. So that was moved on. And Jerry Reinsdorf said something very interesting, Skip. He said their market value wasn't worth that to us. I'm going to take that man at his word.
Okay, let me explain to you one last time why it would have been completely realistic to bring back the 98 Bulls if, in fact, Michael had said, I'm all in to come back. And back to your point about Michael now worth $2.1 billion, Shannon, what I learned at the end of The Last Dance was, once again, money can't buy happiness. Michael Jordan remains 20 years later. Go ahead.
Skip, you're exactly right. Because, Skip, Mike has isolated himself. He didn't build the camaraderie, the friendship over the years that a lot of players have built. And because he's Michael Jordan, Skip, he's not that trusting. And I understand it, Skip. I totally get it. But Michael does not have the friends. He did not cultivate the relationships that a lot of people cultivate while they're in the league.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's fine. Got it. I'm talking about he's clearly still haunted, tormented to this day over the fact he did not get the opportunity to defend his last championship. That's the way sports work. You win, you get the opportunity to defend. Could they have won it again? Right. I believe they could have. But here's the point. In the end, in fact, I heard from a friend of Michael's yesterday. Michael feels that the one thing he learned through that whole process was you can't trust Phil Jackson. He got duped. He got blindsided. He got bamboozled, because what came clear to me was Michael thought, even until that interview for this Last Dance documentary, that Phil got run out of town. So out of loyalty to Phil, he said, okay, I go with you out the back door. And that's not what happened. His own documentary showed Michael, wait a second, Reinsdorf, who I was shocked even sat down to interview for the documentary, but it's because he wanted to take him and his GM, Jerry Krause, off the hook. The reason Jerry Reinsdorf, a shrewd operator, sat down for that documentary was he wanted the world to know something that had never been reported. He offered Phil a deal to come back for 1999. I did not know that. I fell off my chair on the floor when that fact came out of Jerry Reinsdorf's mouth, and then was validated in an interview in the documentary by Phil. Phil's point all along was, I just don't want to do this with Jerry Krause anymore. I've had enough. The bridge is burned. I'm done with them, but I'm telling you, Shannon, he already knew, because I told you, the Zen master was actually the spin master. He knew he had a chance to go coach Shaq and Kobe. And a year later, he's coaching them to the first of their 3 straight championships. He spun Michael Jordan. He duped him into believing that he was finished too. He was going to walk into the sunset back to Montana. Wrong. He's going to Hollywood to coach Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bean Bryant. He got you, Michael. You walked into the sunset for 3 years, the last 3 years of your prime at age 35, 36, and 37. You sat out. It was so wrong. And now Michael has huge, lasting regrets over it because he got bamboozled. He did not know that Reinsdorf made that call. So, Shannon, let's go back to reality. If he knew that Reinsdorf had offered Phil and Phil had said no, and Michael still wanted to play, well, then he could go to Reinsdorf if he'd had an open line of communication, which he did not. They had no dialogue, he said, about any of this. He could have gone to Reinsdorf and said, okay, if Phil wants out, let's go get a real coach. I don't want to hear anything more from little Jerry Krause about somebody named Tim Floyd at Iowa State. That's out, Jerry Reinsdorf. But you give me a made man. Just go get any veteran coach I can respect and who will obviously know how to coach me, and we will go forward. Now, to Scottie Pippen, would Michael have taken less money so Scottie could have had a 1-year, $10 million deal? Highly possible. But here's what you forget, Shannon Sharpe. It came out yesterday in the Jerry Krause unpublished memoir that he gave a parting gift to Scottie. That was not Houston's independent offer to Scottie. That's what the Bulls did for Scottie. They did what was called the sign and trade. So they gave him a parting gift because they were starting over. They didn't care. So they signed Scottie for all that money you just said that Scottie got from the Rockets, and then traded him to the Rockets so that he could fit under their cap. They did him a huge favor, but without that favor, he's not going to get nearly that much. They paid him, they gave him $20 more million as sort of a makeup deal for all the money that he left on the table in his years with the Bulls. So is it possible that without that sign and trade, Scottie would have said, yeah, I'll take $10 million to stay for 1 more year. Let's see if we can keep our brotherhood together. Let's try it one more time. I still believe Rodman had 2 more championship years left, but only one man could coach Dennis Rodman, and it was Michael Jordan. Tony Kukoc was still under contract to the Bulls. And now, to your last point, Shannon, about the Luke Longleys and Steve Kerrs, they're spare parts. I don't care about any of those guys. You can mix and match anybody. And remember, the NBA has a soft salary cap. Players would have lined up from end to end on Michigan Avenue, downtown Chicago, to play with Michael Jordan in 1999. They could have mixed and matched whatever team that they wanted to rebuild together, reload together with. And I'll remind you of one last point, and then I'll let you talk again. But the point was, Jerry Krause had already fallen in love with Tracy McGrady. He tried to trade Scotty for the draft rights to Tracy McGrady 2 years before, and he, in 99, was still madly trying to acquire Tracy McGrady. Well, if you don't think Scotty can make it, if you think he's damaged goods, maybe you could trade him straight up for a young McGrady at that point and let Michael go forward with Tracy McGrady. There are a million ways to make that work in 99, but Michael did not know that Phil had said no. So Phil's last dance did not have to be Michael's last dance.
Well, Skip, you can't go the entire season and say this is going to be the last dance. You can go 82-0, you're not going to coach. And then 7 months later after you win says, nah, I'm thinking having second thoughts. Skip, you have to realize these agents have already been maneuvering behind the scenes where this thing is going to break up. So he's working on Luke Longley's deal. Steve Kerr's agent is working on his deal. Scottie Pippen's agent is working on that deal. Skip, if you remember, that's what happened with Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant just did a sign and trade with the Nets. So that's what happens. What screwed OKC, Skip, is that he walked out the door and they didn't get anything. At least with Miami and LeBron was a sign and trade. So at least you're like, he was doing, Jerry Krause was getting a favor also because he was getting draft compensation. So don't make it seem like he just did it at the kindness of his heart. He got something in return. I do not believe that Scottie Pippen, with his injury history, remember, Skip, he had surgery. He delayed surgery. He had migraines. I do not believe with his history of injury, he was going to be willing to risk that for that amount of money on the back end because, Skip, he did not have a lifetime contract with Nike. None of those guys did. Skip, it would have been foolish because remember this, Skip, rings were not going to change anybody's life. Luke Longley got no job because of those rings. Luke Longley is not going to the Hall of Fame because of those rings. Steve Kerr will go to the Hall of Fame, but it will be as a coach, although they will factor in his playing days, Skip. The only people, Scotty could have changed the narrative. They come back, they win, Skip. Scottie Pippen's MVP. Now he has 7 and a finals MVP. Maybe you look at him a little differently. But, Skip, I don't see it. And remember, Michael Jordan had gained trust of those guys. You said any spare parts, but Michael didn't trust any spare parts. He had gone to war with those guys. Those guys had gained his trust. Luke Longley, Steve Kerr, all those other guys, those spare parts that he had on that team, those were the spare parts that he had been tinkering with for the better part of 3 years. So other parts from somewhere else was not going to be thought of by Mike like what he had in this organization.
Okay, just don't underestimate the impact of Michael Jordan saying 2 weeks after the last championship was won at Utah, a couple of weeks later, if he announces, I'm all in for 99. Shannon, who knows who would have come to the front to say, I'll play with you, I'll play with you. Who's to say that Luke and Steve Kerr and those guys wouldn't have said, you know what, let's go one more time around because it was history that we're making here. We could win 4 in a row. And Shannon, in the end, you have to remember, the last quick point, the Bulls didn't get much back for Scotty in the sign and trade. They got a second-round pick in the immortal Roy Rogers. And I'm not talking about the TV cowboy hero from the 50s and 60s. I know it's way before your time. Yeah, Roy Rogers. Yeah, that's who they got back.
But, Skip, the thing is, you're asking them to turn down $30, $40 million for 1 year. Skip, that ring was not going to change anybody's perception. So let me ask you a question. Scottie Pippen gets another ring. Is he a top 10 or top 15 player? No. Skip, money, not rings, was going to secure these men families. Skip, you're asking them. Michael was making $40 million from Nike, plus he was going to make another $40 million from the Bulls. You can't ask them to give up $30 million, $20 million, while you make 40 and another 40 on the back end. They weren't going to do that, Skip. No way.
Okay. All I know is I heard these words come out of Michael's mouth at the end of the Last Dance documentary. I believe they all would have come back, starting with Scotty. That's what he believes, and I believe him.
No mercy.
Bleacher Report projected what each starting quarterback's stat line will be in 2020, and they gave Patrick Mahomes 34 touchdowns and just 6 interceptions. Tom Brady, with his new team in Tampa, was projected to have 31 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. So, Shannon, how much better will Mahomes' touchdown to interception ratio be than Tom Brady's?
Skip, before I answer that question, I just got a text from someone very close to the NFL, and he said, Shannon, do you remember the name Jerry Reese? I'm like, yeah, he won 2 Super Bowls. Say, Shannon, since he's gotten fired, he has yet to receive an interview request for a GM. Now, Skip, that's a 2-time Super Bowl winning GM. So I just wanted to throw that out there, Skip. So we totally forgot about him, Skip. It just goes to show you, out of sight, out of mind. Skip, I'm going to go.
Good point.
I'm going to say my homeboy will have 40 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and I'm going to say Tom will be somewhere around 28 to 30 with 12 picks. Because I think that his interception, Skip, is going to be higher than we normally would see because he's going to be forced to push the ball down the field. He's going to be forced to take chances that we know Tom Brady does not like to take and he normally would not take. But in order for him to maximize what he has outside with Godwin and Mike Evans, he's going to have to take risks, Skip. Those are big body guys that like to go get 50-50 balls and can get this contested ball. So, Skip, I do think he's going to have, because, 16 games, 2 touchdowns a game, that's 32. So there might be a game where he has 3. There might be a game that he has 1. So I'm going to say, instead of having such a big gap, I'll go 30 and 12. I'll say he'll have 30 touchdown passes. I'll say he'll have 12 to 14 interceptions, because I believe his interception total is going to be high, Skip. That shallow cross and all that stuff that he normally throws, a lot of that swinging stuff out of the backfield, Skip, Bruce Arians wants to push the ball down the field. Byron Leftwich, who's the offensive coordinator, likes to push the ball down the field. Skip, it's over for Tom. The days of Tom Brady being thought of as the best quarterback in the league, now he's the most accomplished, but it's not even close. He's not even the top 5. There are 5 quarterbacks, 6 quarterbacks that I would take right now in front of Tom Brady. And nobody goes in front of my homeboy. You know that, I know that. He's the best player in football. He's the best quarterback in football, hands down, and it's not even close. My homeboy, 40 and 10.
Okay.
40 and 10.
I would like to propose a bet. I would like to bet you that I will take Tom Brady +8 on touchdown passes. I need +8 because you said it's 40. You started out at 28 and then you went to 30. Give me 8. Tom Brady +8 touchdown passes, and I'll do it right now for 5 cases of Diet Mountain Dew. Right here, right now, done. You good?
As you told me, what you told me is that goats don't need anything. So you need to give me 8.
Give you 8? What are you talking about? Yeah. You just said Tom Brady's done. That's what you just said.
But you told me Tom Brady's the GOAT. You told me Tom Brady's the GOAT, though.
Yeah, somebody will not put their Diet Dew where their mouth is, because somebody is choking on their Diet Dew because somebody just spit up a bunch of you-know-what all over everywhere that you don't really believe in. Now, it is my turn to tell you why I believe that Tom Brady will throw just slightly more touchdown passes. I've already told you, I'm on record on this show, Tom Brady will throw 40. I believe Mahomes could throw 38. So I believe you're in the ballpark of being right about Mahomes. You're just way underestimating Tom Brady in Tampa. And listen, again, 40 touchdowns, because I told you from the start, I believe something special is about to happen to Brady in Tampa. I read a piece on ESPN.com over the weekend in which Damian Woody, who I got to know very well, used to be on my show on ESPN, was talking about Brady, saying he just has that thing. He's got that it factor. He's Jordan-esque. I've told you that from the start, Jordan-esque. And several of his ex-teammates said the chip on his shoulder this year will be bigger than it has ever been. You're going to see Psycho Tom in all his glory as he is driven to show Belichick how wrong he was, driven to prove he can win a Super Bowl before Belichick can, and I give him a much better shot this year, especially than Belichick's going to have with Stid, as he calls Jared Stidham. So the point is, if I have always thought that Bruce Arians was even better than Andy Reid at masterminding a passing attack. And now Arians has the luxury of being assisted by and advised by the great Tom Moore, who coached Peyton Manning in his Indy years. So if you give me Arians plus Tom Moore plus Tom Brady in an offense with 2 Pro Bowl receivers, Rob Gronkowski, and they did not trade or give up O.J. Howard. So Shannon, help me out here. Let's talk red zone, shall we? Let's talk about touchdown passes inside the 20. Let's talk about, Mike Evans is 6 feet 5 inches tall. O.J. Howard is 6 feet 6 inches tall. And of course, Gronk is still 6 feet 6 inches tall. Gronk just turned 31 years of age. He's still right in the middle of his prime. O.J. Howard is just entering his prime at age 25. Mike Evans is a top 3 or 4 receiver in the league. And as you mentioned, Chris Godwin, though he's only 6'1", he did make the Pro Bowl. It's so much firepower that lots of touchdowns are going to result from that. And I'm talking about through the air, not on the ground. So I love what's going to happen. Brady plus 6'6", and 6'5" in the red zone equals touchdown, 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 touchdown. 40 touchdowns. Once upon a time in 2007, Brady threw 50 touchdowns. But when I look at what Jameis did in this offense last year, he led the league in attempts. He led the league in passing yards. He was second in touchdown passes with 33 to Lamar's 36. But Jameis threw 30 interceptions. Jameis turned it over 35 times. Tom will not turn it over no more than a third of that total. And remember, down the stretch, that defense, that Todd Bowles defense, the last 6 games, it was second in the NFL in takeaways. And for the year, it was 5th in takeaways. Brady's going to get the ball in advantageous positions, quick strike, quick change situations where you go, boom, touchdown, boom, touchdown. It is made for him to throw 40 touchdown passes if they can protect him. And I think the line is pretty good and got a little to a lot better when they were able to steal Tristan Wirfs by trading up from 14 to 13 in the first round of the draft. It is positioned for him to throw 40. I'll give you 38 from Mahomes, and if you'll give me Tom plus 8, you got to bet. But I don't think you have the guts to do
No. Give me. No, you just said the man's going to throw 40 touchdowns. So I'll tell you what, Skip. You know what? Just give me 2. I don't want the 8. Just give me 2. I'll take Mahomes plus 2.
No guts, Shannon. No guts, no glory.
No, I mean, hold on.
You say he's the best.
You just talked about Whoa, Skip. No. You just said Tom Brady and the GOAT. He got 6'6" over here and 6'5" over there and 6'6" over here and 6'1" Chris Godwin and 6'3" Cameron Brate. So he's going to throw 40 touchdowns. Okay. Give me Mahomes plus 2. That's all I'm asking. You wanted plus Shannon. 8. Just give me plus 2.
You're sounding vulnerable. You're sounding indecisive. You're sounding not secure about your man, or at least not secure about what my man is going to do.
Skip, you just went on and on about your guy, how he threw 50 touchdowns in 2007. So he could easily do that. You just gave me all that other stuff, but now you don't want to give me Mahomes plus 2.
No, I do not, because you went on record as saying Tom Brady, I'm going to quote you, is done in Tampa, that he'll be lucky. First you said 28 touchdowns, and then you edged it up to 30 because you're afraid of Tom Brady. But you said, you went on record, your man would throw 40. So give me 8. I didn't even ask for 10. Just give me 8. I'm just going on what the Hall of Famer told me. You went on record,
Yes.
40 to 30, give me 8.
And my guy's going to throw 40
I'm not in the Hall of
with 10
Fame.
picks
I don't
and
know
gonna be
anything
MVP.
about this.
Don't worry about
I'm just shooting in the dark.
Exactly. So give me 2. Give me 2 touchdowns. I'll take Mahomes plus
Stop
2.
it.
No mercy.
Yesterday, LeBron shared details about his first meeting with Michael Jordan. LeBron said he couldn't believe he was seeing MJ because in his mind, he was someone who didn't actually exist. He said, quote, "I literally couldn't believe it was him. I couldn't believe it. The dude looked like Jesus Christ to me. He was Black Jesus to me." Now, Shannon, I know you've mentioned meeting MJ, and he was godlike to you. So are you surprised by LeBron's reaction to meeting MJ?
No, Skip, when LeBron met Mike, he was 15, 16 years of age. Hell, I'm a grown-ass man. Skip, I'm in the NFL. I'm going to the Pro Bowl. I'm an all-pro. And, Skip, it's hard to explain. And I'm good at words, Skip, and I can tell a story with the best of them. But you can't explain it until you meet him, until you see him for the very first time. And even after the first time, I still felt that way after the second, third, fourth time that I met the guy. Skip, it's kind of like, I don't know, who, maybe if you met Shakespeare, yeah, that's your favorite writer of all time. Imagine Skip Bayless, and Shakespeare walks up. "Hey, Skip, how you doing? You know my name? William Shakespeare? No, Skip Bayless?" Or maybe F. Scott Fitzgerald, maybe Hemingway, some of the Frost, or some of the great writers of our time. They walk up and they like, "Skip Bayless, I love your word. Keep doing." Man, Skip Bayless be doing bad. Oh my goodness. William Shakespeare knows Skip Bayless. Hemingway, Faulkner, Skip, that's what it is. You take the person that you would, in your profession, which is writing and journalism, think about that. And you met one of those guys, what that would do. Well, that's what Michael Jordan is. If you hoop, hell, I ain't even know hoop, and I felt that way. But just imagine if you hoop and you met the guy that you had purchased all of it. You had your mom and grandma buying you all those shoes, saving up extra, you cutting grass and doing all the things you can to get extra money so you can buy those shoes. And you watch this man grow up. And then all of a sudden, you get an opportunity to meet him. Yeah, I'm not, LeBron should not be ashamed, because I can assure you, every other basketball player that's met him after that, I'm not saying because Skip, Magic, and Bird, they already had their identities. Kareem, they had their, but these young, starting with Shaq and going down, they felt the exact same way LeBron did.
By the way, if William Shakespeare had been alive today, I believe he would have been a huge Undisputed fan. And if I had met him, he would have been in awe of me because I know Shannon Sharpe. I work with Shannon Sharpe. Oh, wow, you know Shannon Sharpe? Okay,
you know what's Skip?
Back to the point. Let's not change the subject. I'm sorry, Shannon Sharpe. Everything that I heard from your man, LeBron James, on Undisputed, I believe it was late yesterday, last night, all the clips I've seen, they all sound like concession speeches. It's as if he's conceding, yep, Mike was the GOAT. That's how it comes across, because he's saying, wow, imagine me playing with Mike. I could have been his Scotty. I could have been his Robin. I could have been his complimentary passer. What? Don't say that, LeBron. You're disqualifying yourself from the GOAT debate. It's over. And now he's talking about how much he idolized Jordan, how it was like meeting God. And by the way, just a quick point from my point of view, and again, I didn't play in the NBA, obviously, but I was the biggest Jordan fan. And the first time I met him, I didn't feel like I was in the presence of a god. I just felt like I was in the presence of the greatest performer in the history of sports. He didn't come across as godlike to me in demeanor or aura or whatever that is, but that's beside the point. It did to LeBron. And yet, Shannon, I always interpreted LeBron's actions as saying, I got next. When he had chosen one tattooed on him in high school, I thought he was saying, I'm about to be better than that guy in Chicago. When he chose to wear 23, the immortal number that Jordan had made so all-time GOAT famous, I thought it was LeBron's way of saying, I'm going to take his number and I'm going to take it up a level. And when he adopted or borrowed Michael's pregame powder toss routine, I thought it was LeBron saying, I got next. I'm going to do exactly what he did, except I'm going to do it better. And now it just seems like he wanted to be like Mike, like everybody else in the world did. I want to be like Mike. He didn't want to be Mike or be better than Mike. He just wanted to be like Mike. He wanted to, it was like a little kid idolizing his superhero. So he wants to wear his number, do his powder toss, be like him, but not better than him. So when he just gushes with idolatry, I'm thinking, what are you doing, LeBron? You're sending a signal to all your blind witnesses out there. It's over. He's the greatest. He's actually the Black Jesus, as Reggie said in the documentary. After he torched Jordan in the first half as a rookie, and then Jordan put him back in his place in the second half, Jordan said to him, you don't talk trash to Black Jesus. And from that point on, I think Reggie was done. Reggie's like, from then on, I either called him Black Jesus or Black Cat. And you could tell, Reggie said, I wasn't afraid of him. Yeah, you were. You basically told us, in the end, you were in awe of him. You held fear in your heart for that man. And I believe in the end, so does LeBron. And yet, Shannon, if we reverse roles, when Michael, as a young player, as a rookie, when he first met Dr. J, the great Julius Erving, the first great dunker, slam dunk contest winner, Skywalker, do you think he was in awe and he thought, I'm in the presence of Black Jesus? He didn't think that. No, he thought in his heart of hearts, he didn't say it, but he thought, I'm better than he is. When Michael met Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, what do you think he thought? Nothing. He didn't think anything. I'm meeting some really good players, but I'm better than they are. I'm better than anybody who ever played. He knew it from the start.
But Skip, Michael was the first guy to have, like, for a basketball player to have international fame. He was different. He wasn't like Magic. He wasn't like Larry. He wasn't like Dr. J. He was different, and everybody knew it. They marketed him different. Yes, they marketed to a culture, but he was iconic, Skip. Nobody else was. Magic and Larry was iconic in the States, but Jordan was a global brand, Skip. You know that. But this is what LeBron said. LeBron tweeted this, Skip. He said, no, I didn't say I envisioned MJ as a teammate, not an adversary. A question was asked, do I think I could have been a teammate of his and compliment his game? He said, yes. But he also said, I would die to compete against every single one of them, too. Don't get it twisted. Crown, king, of course, GOAT, that also. Nevertheless, MJ, thank you for being my angel, inspiration, and superhero. Skip, this isn't WWE. We're not manufacturing beef here. There ain't no backtrack. You want him, Skip. Okay, that was Michael, M.O. Michael wanted to manufacture beef, be it real or imagined. Okay, that's him. That's not LeBron. You see, if LeBron tries to do something, Michael wouldn't have done it. Well, if he does something, he's doing it because Michael did it. What do you want from this man? Why can't he say, yes, I could have played alongside Michael. I could have played alongside Magic, could have played alongside Bird, Kareem. Why is that a problem? Why do you want him to hate just because Michael wanted to hate everybody? Okay, that's him. That's not LeBron. LeBron can have his own motivations of what gets him going, gets him to the place where he needs to compete. Skip, we got to stop this. No matter how much you want him to, LeBron does not hate Mike. LeBron has given great deference, have given great favor to the past greats. He understands the history, but that's not good enough for you. You want him to dislike Mike, and that's not going to happen.
No, I do not. Wrong. I don't want dislike. I definitely don't want hate. I'm just showing you the biggest difference between LeBron and Michael is that LeBron will entertain a question, a suggestion of what would have been like to play with Mike. Oh, it would have been great. If you asked Michael the same question, he would have scoffed. He would have just said, I went 6-0. What do I even need to think about playing with LeBron James for? It didn't enter his mind. He didn't need anybody. I'm sorry. It's just one guy was an alpha, and in the end, the other guy is thinking, I could have been his Robin. He's actually dealing publicly with the concept of, I would have been a great Pippen for him. And he would have been. That's all you need to know about the difference between LeBron James and Michael Jordan is one guy actually deals with the concept and the other guy would be offended by it.
If I'm not mistaken, I could have swore I heard Jordan say his ideal lineup would be him, Scottie, James Worthy, Larry Bird, and Magic Johnson. I could have swore I had said that. Hey, Twitter, I know you guys are out there. Do your thing, work your magic, and send that into one Jenny Taft. And Jenny, I need you to put that on the show, that to Azzy, and put that up there. Because I could have swore he said that. That would be his ideal dream lineup. But I could be wrong, but I think it's out there somewhere. Twitter, work your magic.
No mercy.
The 1992 Dream Team is considered to be one of the best teams ever constructed in the history of basketball. And yesterday, LeBron discussed a hypothetical matchup between that team and his own Olympic team from 2008. Now, LeBron obviously did take his squad, said it'd be a hell of a game, that the game would obviously come down to the last shot. So, Shannon, who's winning?
Yeah. Man, I've been going with... I'm taking a redeem team. Redeem. I'm going redeem. Skip, this was tough for me, man. Because the thing, when you look at the original Dream Team, Skip, they were big. They had David Robinson. They had Patrick Ewing. They had Mailman. They had big physical presence. Now, David Robinson wasn't a physical presence, Skip. We know he had a finesse game. But he was very, very, very skilled. I mean, you imagine, I think he was probably more skilled than Chris Bosh as a lefty. David Robinson was lefty. Defensive Player of the Year. He was MVP. So he was special. But I went with the Redeem Team for one reason, Skip. I went for Kobe, Bron, D-Wade, Melo. And Skip, when you think that when you look at the original Dream Team, Skip, but they weren't that old. You know, it was kind of like Larry Bird was 35 and Larry really didn't play a whole lot. Jason Kidd on the Redeem Team was 35. But Skip, when you look at it, they were fair. I mean, Charles was 29, Ewing was 29, Jordan was 29, Malone was 29. So they were a fairly young team. It's like both teams are in their prime. So it's not like you getting one team over their prime and one team in their prime. But, Skip, I went with the Redeem Team for one reason. Kobe, LeBron, D-Wade. And Melo, Skip, Melo might be the best Olympian in the history. Because Melo coming off the bench and giving you 18 points every single game. So I went with the Redeem Team, but I agree with LeBron in this aspect. Skip, it's going to be a hell of a game. Because you know Kobe ain't backing down from MJ. MJ ain't backing down from nobody. And it's going to be a lot of trash talking. Magic going to get it hot. Carl, you better not let him do you like that. Don't you do that, Charles. You let that man post you up like that. Skip, I would have loved to have seen this, but I'm going to take the Redeem Team 110 to 109. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
This is one game, hypothetically, that I would pay Shannon Sharpe money to watch. And as we all know, I'm way down here in my humble abode, west side of L.A. in what's called the Flats. Shannon's still up there in his palatial estate up in Bel Air, coming to you live from his wine cellar with all of his, I can't see him. He's got all these jerseys, whatever.
You can't see that?
if I had Shannon's kind of money, I would pay it to watch this matchup. And yet, in the end, I'm going to take dream over redeem. I'm going to take 92 over 08. And I do agree with one thing LeBron said about the dream team, the 92 team. It had a bunch of grown-ass men on it. They were big, deep, powerful at that position. To your point, as you said, when you can throw Ewing and Robinson in there coming off the bench, Mailman's in the game. Barkley was the leading scorer on that team, is in the game. It's just so much firepower. And I give you, when you go, as you said, and it was in this order, and it came out of your mouth, so it was a Freudian slip. But if you go Kobe, LeBron, D-Wade, Carmelo, that's true, because Kobe was the closest thing we've ever seen to MJ. But in the end, there's one checkmate here. There's one player that I keep trying to tell you that you saw for 5 straight Sunday nights on The Last Dance. There's one player in the history of this game who was a combination tornado meets hurricane meets tsunami, force of nature, and it was a 29-year-old Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Checkmate. So in the end, if you want to do 110 to 109, I say Jordan hits the last shot over Kobe, because Kobe would want to defend Michael Jordan. And it would be a great matchup. I give you that. But in the end, it's just the 92 team is so deep that John Stockton could not get off the bench. All he did is set the all-time assist record that I think will never be broken, and the all-time steals record I think will never be broken. But remember, Michael Jordan in that Olympics averaged 5 steals a game. Scottie Pippen also played a good bit and averaged 3 steals a game. So just the fact that I would have Michael and Scottie defending on the perimeter, obviously defending Kobe. I don't know if LeBron would be there, or maybe it's Melo, maybe it's D-Wade. But if you have those two lockdown defenders, you've got a big advantage, because those two together, they were a force of nature. So in the end, on strength, depth, power, physicality, and Jordan, I'm going to go Dream Team.
Skip, you do realize this is not Angola. This is not Ghana. That you're playing the Redeem Team. Yeah, you got no skills, because you got to realize, Skip, the international game wasn't what it is now. Because, when you had a few guys, you had Sabonis, the Lithuanian, you had him up in Portland. If I'm not mistaken, Skip, I believe you had Petrovic. So, Skip, it wasn't, Vlade. It wasn't like now the NBA, and you got, a foreign-born player on almost every team. It wasn't like that in 92. And I think what we see now sprung out of 92. So, Skip, it's going to be, look, I just might even say, hey, y'all just clear out. Hey, Michael and Kobe, y'all do y'all thing. I just going to watch y'all do y'all thing, because I know that's what you guys going to turn it into anyway. So, Skip, you know how Michael, because you remember, Skip, that little Laker boy, man, he ain't passing the ball to nobody. He tried to and Mike. Mike ain't going to back down from Kobe. Kobe damn sure not going to back down from Mike. No. So I don't know how many other guys going to get any shots, but it's going to be a hell of a game.
And remember, Michael, as you said, was 29 in 92, and Kobe was 29 in 08. So you'd have 29 versus 29. And yet, because you distilled this into that, you boiled it all the way down to Michael versus Kobe, as I would too, I think you're saying that our GOAT debate should have been from the start Michael versus Kobe, not Michael versus LeBron, right?
You got to realize in 2008, my guy was what, 23? My guy was a baby. My guy was 23 years old. 23 had no business in the Olympics. 23. What he doing in the Olympics at 23? Giving folk that work. Giving folk that work. That's what he was doing.
Well, he was kind of the Christian Laettner of his team. Yeah, Christian Laettner they took for the Dream Team. So it's okay. So they had Laettner, and he didn't do much. And the other guys had LeBron, and he didn't do much. So let's talk GOAT.
Well,
let's talk Michael versus Kobe, and then we got a debate.
You know what? LeBron would have been in the locker room. He'd have said, "Hey, that guy number 9, don't nobody touch him. Kobe and I got this. I don't want to see nobody. I don't even want to see nobody look at number 9. Kobe and I got this. Kobe, I'm up first. I'm on deck. I got this. We'll lock him down. Bron hounded him from end to end."
Remember the story we talked about that came from Ahmad Rashad, who was with Jordan in Barcelona through that Olympics? Remember about the day that they all went back? I think it was Magic's hotel room, and it was Bird and Magic and Michael and Ewing, a couple other players. One thing led to another, and Bird and Magic started needling Jordan. And it got a little bit uncomfortable, and all of a sudden Jordan snapped on them and said, "You both better shut the you-know-what up, or I'm going to tear both your asses up when I meet you next year during regular season games." And again, Bird was 35 and Magic was 32, 3 years older than
Bird
Jordan.
Retired.
But all of a sudden, Jordan snapped and turned into that cold-blooded killer. And even Bird and Magic, according to Ahmad Rashad, were like, whoa, and they shut the you-know-what up. That's what you were up against.
I said, all I'm saying is that my guys in the locker room for the Redeem team, it would have said, "Hey," LeBron says, "Look here, number 9, we don't worry about no name on the back. Number 9, Kobe and I got it. Kobe, I'm up first. Let's rock and roll. 6'9", 260, bodying him. Big body. That's what we do. Hostile takeover."
Good luck.
Let's rock and roll. All right. There you have it.
No mercy.
Yesterday, LeBron shared a story that during the 2011 NBA lockout, he, quote, started training to be a football player just in case. He said he switched his entire lifting routine and started clocking his 40-yard dash time. Shannon, I got to get your take on this. Are you surprised LeBron was training to be a football player?
Yeah, especially that late in his career, Skip. I mean, that's not something that you just pick up. I mean, you have to get used to taking those hits. You have to understand how to fall. Everybody just can't get out there and say, like, okay, I just took a... You have to learn how to fall, Skip. And then you have to have senses to understand where those licks are going to be coming from. So, Skip, I am a little surprised that he trained like that. Clearly, it didn't hurt anything. He led if I'm not mistaken, he led them to the NBA Finals that year. So I am surprised, Skip. I'm surprised that he still has aspirations and he still has the mindset of a football player. Now, he was an outstanding football player in high school, 2-time All-State wide receiver, and I think that would probably be the only position they could play. He'd be more like a Harold Carmichael, Skip. You remember Harold Carmichael, I think 6'8.5". I know Harold very well, 6'8.5". He's going to have to play on the edge. He's too tall to play tight end, Skip. So he needs to be outside the numbers, use his his jumping ability to jump up and catch the pass, jump up and catch passes. But I am surprised that Skip that he would even venture to train like that, considering that a basketball player and his shot, and you don't want to be tinkering with doing bench press and putting on that type of muscle to throw your shot off in the slightest. So I am a little surprised that he would even venture out to train like that. So, yeah, I am surprised, but we know how much he loves the game of football. The Cowboys, I don't know, for some ungodly reason that's his favorite team, but that's a story for another day.
No, it's a story for today, because that is the story.
No, it ain't. No, it ain't.
So, Shannon.
No, it's not.
Yeah. I was shocked that LeBron would acknowledge that during that lockout year, he and his trainer named, Mike Mancias, who was also a born and raised Cowboy fan, that they decided that they would go all in. I just got visited by my daughter, Hazel, here. She just ran upstairs, so forgive me for that. She might jump up in my lap, but I'm going to keep going. So the point was, Shannon, that they started training for football in that they were doing heavy bench press and they were timing LeBron in the 40, and I would love to know what he could time, because I believe he could have run 4.5. I could be wrong at 6'9", 250 or 60, but I think he's gifted enough, athletic. What do you think? 4.6, 4.7? I don't know. I'm going to guess 4.5.
Well, Skip, if he goes to a speed coach, because the start is everything in the 40, so if he can, obviously he's a long strider. Yeah. So if he can, his first 10 is going to tell the story. But I'm saying if he were to train at that age, he probably could have run, Skip, I probably believe he could have run 4.6. He might have could have run 4.6, 4.65, which is, for someone that tall, Skip, that's moving.
Okay, so they were even doing sled drills, like blocking sled drills, where he's trying to learn how to power drive into blocks.
Right.
This was serious business. So my first thought was, and I'm not taking a below the belt shot here. I'm serious. Remember, LeBron was coming off that first finals with the Heat, and he had a rough time. Games 4, 5, and 6, he just melted down and disappeared. And I started thinking last night, is it possible that he was thinking, maybe I should try another career? Maybe I should try football before it's too late? And again, Maverick Carter brought up the fact that Jerry Jones went so far as to send him a contract. And I think it was real, like a make good sort of, come to camp and be one of our, be a Dallas Cowboy. And that LeBron's got that contract framed on his office wall. And LeBron acknowledged that he still has dreams about playing pro football. But he says, I never get out of the locker room. I never actually step on the field, and then I wake up or the dream changes. So it's still in his psyche that football was that big a deal to him. And I do believe, Shannon Sharpe, I believe he could have been very good at football. And I know we talk about, could you take the physicality of it? I have often questioned LeBron's mental toughness, but I don't question his physical toughness. He takes a lot of shots. I know they're just basketball shots, but he takes a beating, a Shaq-like beating, almost a Jordan-esque beating against the bad boy Pistons. I think he could take the quote-unquote punishment. And to your point, I think he could revolutionize pro football. Again, this would be back, in his younger days. But that he could have been split out as some sort of hybrid tight end, Jimmy Graham-esque. Jimmy Graham, obviously a former basketball player at Miami. And I think at 6'9", he would have been really difficult to guard, especially in any red zone, goal line situation. The prospect of it was that I get it. I do think that this could have happened, but to me, I wondered if, was he thinking, I failed at basketball and now I should prepare myself for football? Well, that's a story, man. And obviously he grew up a Cowboy fan. I get it. They're everywhere. It's America's team. But he did say that he and his trainer were thinking of, he called it Irvine, Texas, but it's Irving, where they used to play at Old Texas Stadium. By that point, they were already moved to Jerry World over in Arlington. But the point was, he gets it. He wanted to be a part of that. His trainer wanted him to be a part of it. And it's shocking to me that he went so far as to go into full football training mode. And I, for one, would have loved to have seen what would have happened. What did happen was, to your point, he went back and they were able to take advantage of what I call the baby Oklahoma City Thunder. And he finally broke through and won and said right after the game, Baby Thunder. And he said, it's about damn time. And I said, you got it. Amen, brother.
But Skip, you train, you run, but it's a different mentality. It's a different type of training for football and training for basketball. Because you play a position, you got to lift some heavy ass. You got to lift some heavy ass weight. You got to move some weight, and it's a lot different. It's a lot more running in basketball, but it's a lot because you got to get your body used to absorbing those blows. And I think the thing is, and it was so long, Skip. It's not like Michael and Tim Tebow playing basketball or playing football and then going to play baseball, which is a non-contact sport. You got to get used to. I'm talking about people. So I believe LeBron, if he had said, you know what? Yeah, I know I'm tall and I like basketball. I believe if he'd have devoted his mind to it in high school and said, this is what I want to do, I believe he could have done it. Because, Matt Barnes, he was a football player, but he's like, I want to play basketball. Matt definitely has the mindset to have played football. So it's a different mindset playing football as opposed to basketball.
Yep.
But I believe if LeBron set his mind to it back when he was younger and says, this is what I want to do. Now, I don't know if he'd have been in football what he became in basketball, Skip, but I do believe he probably could have made it.
I think he could have beyond made it. I think he could have been a Pro Bowl hybrid receiver. I don't even know what you would have called him. Mm-hmm. I agree he wouldn't be a blocking tight end. I don't know, maybe he could if he put his mind to it. But I would think you would split him out in the slot or even sometimes outside, because I do believe LeBron, when I watch him on fast breaks, he looks like he could run 4.6, 4.5. And if he could run 4.5 at that point back in 2011, he could have devastated defenses because he could occasionally run by, especially if you put a safety or a linebacker on him, he would run by safeties and linebackers. I do think he would have been a revolutionary football player. And seriously, I think if Jerry gave him a contract, I don't think it was for show. I don't think it was tongue in cheek. I think they would have, in fact, Dallas has a long history of inviting, other athletes, obviously basketball players or track and field performers to play for them back in the Gil Brandt days. So Bob Hayes, there you go. Ronaldo Nehemiah tried it at one point. Remember the great Pete Gent, who could write as well as he played? He was a basketball star at Michigan State. So they had a long history of this. And, boy, would that not have brought down the house? That could have been LeBron's Michael plays baseball story, except LeBron playing for the Cowboys. It would have stopped the sports world. It would have been the biggest story of 2012. And yet, ironically, the biggest story became LeBron finally breaks through and wins his first ring.
But Skip, you were, I don't know if you were in Dallas at the time. Skip, it's difficult. So no matter how great an athlete you are, when you train, that's why we have to give kudos to Deion and Bo Jackson. When you're a professional athlete in one sport and you can go to another sport and be good at it, if not great, Skip, because look at Too Tall. Skip, Too Tall was an outstanding defensive lineman for the Cowboys. Man, that joker went to boxing and the dude almost beat him to death. Little old dude beat the brakes off Too Tall. So it's not easy. People just think, well, he's great at this.
Yeah, I was there. It was in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and the opponent was the immortal Jesus Meneses. That's who he couldn't beat that day. It was a tough day for Too Tall. He was like 2 feet taller than Jesus.
He was, but the mistake that he made is that he went to New Mexico, Skip. He went to altitude. You better go somewhere. You hadn't been training in altitude. So you go to New Mexico, and you're not a fight, Skip. If I tell you what, all you got to do, if you want to know how hard boxing is, just put 3 minutes on the clock, and I just want you to shadow box nonstop, and then you will get an understanding, because it's not as easy as you think. And when you tell a guy, man, throw punches, Skip, when you get tired, think about it. Conor McGregor is an MMA fighter. Ooh. He got in there with Floyd Mayweather. Yep. He got so tired in the 10th round, he couldn't throw no punches. I know his mind is saying, throw punches, but your arms won't move. Yep. And Too Tall, a great defensive lineman, that little old dude beat the brakes off it.
True.
I'd still like the idea of picturing LeBron as a Cowboy. Maybe he would have been Skip's favorite player. Who knows?
No,
we'll never know. I don't picture that.
No mercy.
NASCAR is back, guys. Tonight on FS1, we've got Xfinity Series racing. Then tomorrow night, we finish up at Darlington with the Toyota 500 live in primetime only on FS1. And Sunday, we're back on Fox for the Coca-Cola 600 live from Charlotte. So, Emmitt Smith still holds the all-time rushing lead by over 1,500 yards. And fellow Hall of Famer LaDainian Tomlinson said yesterday that he doesn't think Emmitt's record will be broken. LT said that with the way the game is played today and the average career of a running back, there is no chance we will see a new rushing king. How about that? Now, Shannon, I do want to ask you about this, but Skip, I have a feeling you might have a special visitor joining you right now for Undisputed. Is there anyone sitting with you today?
I do, Jenny, because somebody broke out of Ernestine's office, burst right up the stairs into the exercise room / loft where I'm coming to you from, and leaped in my lap. It's my little daughter, Hazel, my Maltese, because she said she wants to give Shannon a piece of her mind about LeBron James. So here she is. She wants to be a TV star anyway. So I just wanted to give her thank you very much. I need to get my nose clean anyway. So this this is Hazel for any of those out there who have not been introduced to her. Go ahead, Shannon.
Well, Hazel, I do have an official Lakers 23 jersey coming your way in the very near future because I know you are a huge Laker fan.
Nope.
Finally, a Hazel
She's
shot.
A Dallas Cowboy fan. Way to go, Hazel. We got to talk about Emmitt.
She's a star. She's a star.
Thank you, Hazel.
She's got a lot to say. Thank you for being here, Hazel. We appreciate it. Shannon, you can go get your dogs another time. Question for you. Do you agree that Emmitt's record is unbreakable?
You know, guys, I hate saying never, but I think it's going to be very, very hard for someone to break this record. Skip, Emmitt averaged 1,200 rush yards for 15 seasons. Only 5 backs went over 1,200 yards last year. Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Christian McCaffrey, Zeke Elliott, and Chris Carson. Let that sink in for a second, Skip. You only had 5. Emmitt did that for 15 seasons. And Emmitt, Skip, there are not very many bell cow backs now. I'm talking about guys that take the majority of the workload. Because now, Skip, they split it up. And what we're seeing now, Skip, teams are willing to, okay, they draft you very high, let you play out that contract, and then they move on to someone younger. They've used you up. They've given you your 1,200 carries in a 4-year span, a 4-year span, and then they move on. And with the way teams now, Skip, they spread the ball out. They throw it a lot more than they run it. Skip, it's going to be hard for someone to get it because everybody's going to the 2-back system. They throw the ball a lot more than they run it because when Emmitt came into the league, you wanted 3 yards in a cloud of dust, Skip. They were running the football. You threw the ball on 3rd down. Now, teams are throwing the ball 55, 60% of the time, and they're running it the other where it was reversed when Emmitt got into the league. So I think it's going to be very, very difficult for someone to play long enough, be productive long enough, to rush for over 18,000 yards and eclipse Emmitt.
Okay. You're probably right. I've learned many years ago to be a never say never guy because I don't know, maybe there's some 12-year-old out there right now who's going to be so gifted that he'll be able to have the staying power and the durability to eclipse even Emmitt Smith's record. But it's doubtful. I give you that. So, Shannon, I was there for Emmitt's first 7 years as a Dallas Cowboy. And I remind everybody, he ran 4.6 at the combine, a 4.640. Today, that would be, quote unquote, death, right? That would be grounds to fall to the 3rd round, whatever. Emmitt fell in the first round all the way. Yeah, in his size.
Especially at his size.
Think about his size. 17. Yeah. He was about 5'9", maybe 205, maybe. And here's the other thing, Shannon, and Emmitt will not like me saying this, but it was the God's truth. He was never in great shape. He was a little butterball. Forgive me, Emmitt, but it's just the truth. He always had a little bit of a paunch, just a little paunch. And he wasn't a weight room warrior. He wasn't a workout warrior. He basically got in shape in camp, running the football in drills and in practice, played here and there in some preseason. And then he basically got in shape as he got going through the regular season games. And I must confess to you, Shannon, I was never the biggest fan of Emmitt because it didn't look spectacular to me, what he was doing. To your mind's eye, you'd say, that doesn't look that great until you saw the post-game box and you'd say, wait, he got 134 yards? I don't remember them. And I used to call him Emmitt Smith, as in win an Emmy, because I can't tell you how many times he dragged himself back to the huddle, dragging his leg or his arm or his knockdown shoulder, quote unquote, and it looked like he couldn't go again. Histrionics, melodrama, and yet he always just kept going, and the more he limped, the better he ran. And I know they said that about the great Jim Brown. It looked like he'd drag himself back to the huddle, but Emmitt was constantly Emmy setting up a defense to say he's hurt. In fact, the great story, remember that last regular season game when Emmitt was at the Giants? Remember that game in what year? I'm losing track of what year it was. 93. I'm forgetting which year. 93.
Yeah, it's like 92, 93, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the great John Madden was so impressed that Emmitt gutted it out with a shoulder injury. And remember, it was for all the marbles against the Giants. You know, it was for home field and everything. It was for the division. And Emmitt gutted it out. And John Madden walked all the way down from the TV booth to the locker room to say, hey, congratulations, young man. That was as heroic a performance as I ever watched, said John Madden. I'm in the locker room, and players and a trainer are telling me he wasn't that hurt. In fact, the trainer said half the guys in here are playing with a shoulder like that. They tried to get Emmitt to take a shot at halftime, a pain-killing shot. He was afraid of needles. He wouldn't take the shot. So my point was, I don't even know how hurt he was in that game. But all I know is for 15 years, he averaged playing 15 games a year. Well, that in and of itself today is impossible to even wrap your head around. And over those 15 years, he averaged 4.2 yards per carry. Well, if you can last 15 years and play 15 games and average 4.2 every time you touch the football, what do you think's going to happen? Well, all those yards are going to happen. So Shannon, in the end, it's what Norv Turner told me in 1992. He'd never seen a player, a running back, with such incredible quickness in what Norv called a confined space. Emmitt ran between the tackles at 5'9", 205, but he was so quick and slippery that, and remember, he's behind one of the all-time elephant offensive lines, just a dominating, just zone-blocking power offensive line. And Shannon, they got to the point where Emmitt wouldn't even hit the hole called. So they quit calling it for a certain hole. They would just go Emmitt right, Emmitt left. We'll hand it right or toss it right, hand it left, toss it left. And Emmitt would just, as they say, run or duck to daylight. And he was so low slung that he could duck and dart behind the elephant offensive lineman. And all of a sudden, quickness in a confined space, nobody could get a clean shot on him. Nobody could get that one shot that could put him down or hurt him or even career threatening. Nobody could do that because he was too quick. He was in a weird package, small package, but quick and elusive. So he would get in your secondary before you knew it. And then I will give Emmitt this. It didn't look like he ran 4.6 with a football under his arm. It looked like he ran more like 4.4. So the combination in that weird package of all of that made him very difficult to tackle. So he goes 11 straight years in which he went over 1,000 yards. I mean, that added up, and it's going to be hard to catch that.
It is, Skip, and when you realize that Emmitt, he wasn't built, but Skip, he's put together. He's got a little stature. He's got some texture to him now. He's not thinly built. Emmitt and I came in the league together in 1990, so I know Emmitt very well. We back before he got mad, we hung out a little bit together, Skip. But even back then, Skip, the only thing that Emmitt really talked about was he wanted to Walter Payton's record. I'm like, bro, we at Daytona. You talk about, let's do what we do at a spring break. You talk about getting Walter Payton's record. Yep. But that was his singular focus, was getting that record. And I'm like, I knew what the record was. I'm like, man, that's a lot of yards. Dude, you like your third year, your third year. You talking about getting that record? He's like, I'm going to get that record. He's Sharpe. I'm going to get that record. Watch.
Yeah, and Shannon.
And here we are.
Tell you. Yeah. Well, I can't tell you how many times I sat up in the press box saying, Emmitt, gut it out, like it'd be 3rd and 7, and he'd run a draw, and he'd burst to the sideline, and all he had to do is lower his head and go through the DB to get the first down. Nope, not Emmitt. Done. I'm out of bounds at 6 yards. He ran away from contact, and all it allowed him to do was to play for 15 years. So he was smarter than anybody else because he did win 3 Super Bowls, and he won a bunch of rushing titles, and he stayed healthy. So sometimes, as they say, it's better to give yourself up on this play and live to fight the next play.
Skip, the thing that Emmitt had to do with is that obviously he's the all-time leading rusher, but if you played from 1990 until 1998 and you played the running back position, nobody cared. All they cared about was Barry, because Barry was doing stuff we had never seen and we might not ever see again, Skip.
No,
that's what it was. Emmitt was getting 1,600 yards, but Barry was getting the same amount of yards, but he was losing like 800 yards and still getting 1,600 yards. So that's why Emmitt didn't look impressive, because Barry was like, oh my God, did you see what Barry did? They had highlights of Barry losing yards. That was impressive as anybody rushing for a 50-yard touchdown.
No mercy.
Over the weekend, Aaron Rodgers shared his respect for Michael Jordan, saying he grew up looking up to him. Rodgers also called Jordan the greatest basketball player ever and would love to debate anyone on the topic. Shannon, this is your guy. How much stock do you put in Rodgers' opinion?
Nothing, he's entitled to his opinion. But my guy, this was my guy right here, Jenny. Look at my guy. That was my guy right there.
All right.
Yeah, that was my guy right there. Skip, look, he grew up, he said the last game that he remember going to Arco, the old Sacramento Kings arena, and seeing Michael Jordan play. I think his last time coming to that arena. And, Skip, it's hard to argue because so many people grew up watching Michael. They had never seen anybody do anything like him. The acrobatic shots, the dunks, and all that nature, the tongue hanging out. He was so commercialized, but he could play. And so if Aaron Rodgers, that's your guy, ride with your guy. But I'm on this mountain. I'm not moving. I don't want to be rescued. Leave me here. Let me perish. And if I perish alone, I'm okay with that. So everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Well, you're perishing.
And I give great... No, I ain't.
Yeah, please send food to Shannon's mountain. He's alone on his mountain now because even his guy, Aaron Rodgers, has abandoned Shannon Sharpe. This is the man that Shannon Sharpe on Undisputed has often called the GOAT of the NFL. Aaron Rodgers, transcendent thrower of the football. And now even Aaron says, he's the greatest basketball player of all time. I would debate anybody on that. That means you, Shannon Sharpe. Maybe we should ask Aaron to sit in for me tomorrow to debate you, because it's an argument, Shannon, you cannot win. I put high credibility and stock in what the man you call the GOAT of the NFL says about the phony GOAT that is LeBron James.
So now you want to put stock in something Aaron Rodgers says. Now you want to listen to everything he has to say. Yeah. And I got a new GOAT, my homeboy, the GOAT now.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, wise man. That is it for Undisputed. Thank you guys for joining us. We're back same time tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Have a good day, guys. And Skip, more Hazel.